There's a shift happening right now in Silicon Valley that most people aren't paying attention to. And if the insiders are right, if the leaked documents are accurate, if the anonymous engineers who've been talking to journalists are telling the truth, we're about to witness the biggest power play in the history of consumer electronics. Not a gradual evolution, a hostile takeover. Nvidia, the company that 2 years ago was known primarily for gaming graphics cards, is now worth more than Apple, Microsoft, and the entire oil industry combined. Their market cap has crossed $3 trillion. Their chips power every major AI system on the planet. ChatGPT runs on Nvidia. Google's AI runs on Nvidia. Tesla's self-driving systems, Amazon's cloud infrastructure, the Pentagon's defense simulations, all of it Nvidia hardware. But here's what nobody saw coming. According to multiple sources inside the company, according to leaked internal documents reported by Bloomberg, Nikkei Asia, and the Wall Street Journal, according to supply chain analysts in Taiwan and engineers who've signed NDAs and are talking anyway, Nvidia is building a smartphone, not a concept, not a side project. A mass-market consumer smartphone designed to directly challenge Apple, Samsung, and every other player in the mobile industry. And this isn't just another Android phone with a faster chip. This is Nvidia attempting to do what Apple did in 2007. Redefine what a phone is, what it does, and who controls the future of mobile computing. Because if the leaks are accurate, the Nvidia phone won't be a phone that uses AI. It will be an AI that happens to make phone calls. A fully autonomous personal intelligence system that runs entirely offline, processes language models faster than anything on the market, and costs less than an iPhone. Let me say that again. Faster than Apple, cheaper than Apple, and controlled by the company that already owns the infrastructure of artificial intelligence. If this happens, if Nvidia actually pulls this off, Apple isn't just facing competition. They're facing an existential threat to the entire business model that's made them the most valuable consumer brand in history. This is the story of how Nvidia went from graphics cards to global domination, why they're about to enter the most competitive market on Earth, and what it means when the company that controls AI decides they don't need Apple, Google, or Samsung anymore. They're coming for your pocket, and they're not playing by the old rules. Let's start with the part most people don't understand. How did Nvidia get here? How does a company that made graphics cards for gamers become more valuable than the entire automotive industry? In 1999, Nvidia was a struggling Silicon Valley startup. They just released something called the GPU, the Graphics Processing Unit, a chip designed to render video game graphics faster than traditional CPUs could. Gamers loved it. The rest of the world ignored it. For a decade, Nvidia was a niche player. Good products, loyal customers, but fundamentally a gaming company in a world that didn't take gaming seriously. Then in 2012, something changed. A group of AI researchers at the University of Toronto, led by Geoffrey Hinton, discovered that neural networks, the foundation of modern AI, could be trained significantly faster using GPUs instead of traditional processors. Not a little faster, 100 times faster. What used to take weeks on a CPU could be done in hours on a GPU. Nvidia's CEO Jensen Huang saw what was happening before anyone else. He realized that the same architecture that made video games look realistic could also power artificial intelligence. And he made a bet that would change everything. Instead of staying in gaming, Nvidia pivoted hard into AI. They started designing chips specifically for machine learning. They built software frameworks like CUDA that made it easier for researchers to use their hardware. They gave away free GPUs to universities and AI labs to get developers hooked on their ecosystem. By 2016, every major AI breakthrough was running on Nvidia hardware. AlphaGo, the AI that beat the world champion at Go, Nvidia chips. Self-driving cars from Tesla, Waymo, Cruise, Nvidia chips. Google's data centers training language models, Nvidia chips. The company didn't just dominate AI computing, they became the only option. Competitors tried to catch up. Intel, AMD, Google with their custom TPU chips. None of them could match Nvidia's combination of hardware performance, software ecosystem, and installed base. Then came the AI boom of 2022. ChatGPT launched. Generative AI exploded into mainstream consciousness. Every company on Earth suddenly needed AI capabilities. Cloud providers, tech giants, startups, governments, all of them scrambling to buy Nvidia's H100 and H200 chips. Demand was so high that Nvidia couldn't manufacture fast enough. There were waiting lists, 6-month delays, customers paying premiums just to get access. By 2023, Nvidia's revenue had tripled. Their profit margins hit 70%, higher than Apple's, higher than almost any company in history. And Jensen Huang became one of the most powerful figures in technology. Not because he invented AI, because he controlled the only infrastructure capable of running it at scale. But here's the thing. Nvidia's dominance is based entirely on data centers, massive server farms filled with racks of GPUs processing requests from millions of users. When you talk to ChatGPT, your request gets sent to an Nvidia-powered server somewhere in the cloud. When you use Google's AI features, same thing. Cloud processing, remote computation. Your phone is just a dumb terminal sending data to Nvidia's chips sitting in a data center thousands of miles away. And that model works. It's made Nvidia unfathomably rich. But it has a problem. A fundamental limitation that Jensen Huang and his leadership team have been obsessing over for the last 2 years. The cloud model means Nvidia doesn't control the consumer. They sell chips to Apple, Google, Samsung. Those companies build the phones, control the operating systems, own the relationship with users. Nvidia is the engine, but they're invisible. Most people using AI on their phone have no idea Nvidia is involved. And that's a problem because the future of AI isn't in the cloud, it's local, on device, running directly on the hardware you're holding in your hand. Because cloud AI has latency. Every request has to travel over the internet, get processed on a remote server, and travel back. That takes time, milliseconds, sometimes seconds. And for the next generation of AI applications, real-time personal assistants that can see what you see, hear what you hear, predict what you need before you ask, latency is unacceptable. On-device AI solves that. The model runs directly on your phone's processor, no internet required, no data leaving your device. Instant responses, total privacy. And that's where Nvidia has a problem. Because the chips in current smartphones, Apple's A series, Qualcomm's Snapdragon, Samsung's Exynos, they're not powerful enough to run large language models locally. They can handle simple AI tasks, voice recognition, photo processing, predictive text. But they can't run GPT-class models. They don't have the compute power or the architectural efficiency. So the entire AI revolution happening on your phone right now is fake. It's cloud processing disguised as local intelligence. And Nvidia knows this. They've built chips capable of running full AI models on a device the size of your hand. They've already done it with their Jetson platform for robotics and edge computing. The technology exists, they just haven't put it in a consumer phone yet. And that's what's about to change. Because according to multiple sources, Nvidia has decided that waiting for Apple, Samsung, and Google to adopt their architecture isn't fast enough. They're going to build the phone themselves. The leaks started appearing in early 2025. First from Bloomberg, citing sources familiar with Nvidia's plans. Then Nikkei Asia, reporting that Nvidia had formed internal teams focused on mobile operating systems. Then Reuters confirming that supply chain partners in Taiwan had been contacted about smartphone components. And finally, the Wall Street Journal reporting that Jensen Huang had personally greenlit the project during a closed meeting with investors. The details are still murky. Nvidia hasn't confirmed anything publicly, but based on the leaks, here's what we know. Nvidia is developing a smartphone built around their next-generation AI chip, likely based on the Blackwell or Rubin architecture currently in development for data centers. This chip will be capable of running large language models entirely offline. No cloud, no internet. The AI operates locally on the device. The phone will use a custom operating system, possibly a fork of Android heavily modified for AI-first interaction. Think less about apps and icons, more about conversational interfaces and autonomous agents. The AI becomes the operating system. You don't open apps. You tell the AI what you need and it handles the execution. The device will be positioned as the first true AI-native smartphone, not a phone with AI features bolted on. A phone designed from the ground up to be an autonomous personal intelligence system. The entire user experience revolves around the AI understanding your context, your habits, your preferences, and acting on your behalf without needing explicit commands. And here's the kicker. Nvidia plans to price it aggressively, not premium pricing like Apple, not even mid-range pricing like Samsung's Galaxy S series. Nvidia wants to undercut everyone, make the most powerful AI phone on the market and sell it cheaper than the competition. They're calling it internally the democratization of superpower. Why would Nvidia do this? Why would a company making 70% profit margins on data center chips enter the cutthroat low-margin smartphone business? Because they're not trying to make money on hardware. They're trying to control the platform. Look at what Apple did. They didn't make money selling iPhones at cost. They made money by owning the ecosystem. The App Store takes 30% of every transaction. Apple Music, iCloud, Apple TV, all recurring revenue. And most importantly, they controlled the user experience, the operating system, the default apps, the AI features. Everything flows through Apple. Nvidia wants the same thing. They want to own the AI platform that runs on your phone. Because in 5 years, the phone isn't just a device. It's the interface to your entire digital life. Your personal assistant, your translator, your financial advisor, your health monitor, your entertainment system, your connection to the world. And whoever controls that interface controls the future of computing. Right now, that's Apple and Google. Apple with iOS and Google with Android. But both of them are dependent on NVIDIA's hardware for AI processing. And NVIDIA's tired of being the supplier. They want to be the platform. So they're building a phone that makes Apple's iPhone look like a flip phone from 2005. A device so powerful, so intelligent, so fundamentally different that it redefines consumer expectations. And they're pricing it so aggressively that Apple can't compete on cost and can't compete on capabilities. Let's talk about what this means for Apple, because if Nvidia actually executes, if they ship this phone in 2026 or 2027, Apple is in serious trouble. Apple's entire business model is based on premium pricing. The iPhone starts at $790 and goes up to $1,599 for the Pro Max. They justify that price with build quality, ecosystem integration, and brand prestige. But the actual technology inside an iPhone isn't cutting edge. Apple uses chips that are 1 or 2 generations behind the absolute state-of-the-art. They prioritize battery life and cost over raw performance. That strategy worked when smartphones were about cameras, screens, and apps. But in an AI-first world, performance is everything. If your phone can't run a large language model locally, if it has to send every AI request to the cloud, it's obsolete. And Apple's current chips, the A17 and A18, can't run GPT-class models. They're not powerful enough. Apple knows this. That's why they've been desperately trying to build their own AI capabilities. Apple Intelligence, their on-device AI system announced in 2024, is supposed to solve this problem, but it's limited. It can handle basic tasks, rewriting emails, summarizing notifications, simple voice commands. But it's not a full autonomous AI. It's a smart assistant, not an intelligence. And that's because Apple is constrained by their own chip architecture. They designed the A-series chips for power efficiency, not for AI workloads. They can't just bolt on more compute power without destroying battery life. They're stuck. Nvidia doesn't have that problem. They've spent 15 years building chips optimized for AI. They know how to get maximum performance per watt. They know how to cool high-power chips in small form factors. They've already solved the engineering problems that Apple is still struggling with. So, when Nvidia releases a phone that can run GPT-4 class models entirely offline, that can translate languages in real time, that can analyze video as you're recording it, that can predict what you're about to do and prepare for it, Apple's going to look slow. Outdated, expensive, and price is the killer. If Nvidia prices their phone at $599 or $699, they're undercutting the iPhone by $200 to $900 depending on the model. For the first time, consumers will be able to buy the most powerful phone on the market for less than an iPhone. And that destroys Apple's entire value proposition. Apple can't compete on price. Their profit margins depend on premium pricing. If they drop prices to match Nvidia, their revenue collapses. But if they don't drop prices, consumers will buy the Nvidia phone instead. Either way, Apple loses. But it gets worse, because Nvidia isn't just threatening the hardware, they're threatening the ecosystem. Apple's real money isn't in iPhone sales, it's in services. The App Store, iCloud, Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, all the recurring subscriptions that generate $85 billion a year in nearly pure profit. But those services only work if people use iPhones. If consumers switch to NVIDIA's phone, they switch to NVIDIA's ecosystem. They use NVIDIA's App Store, they subscribe to NVIDIA's services. And Apple's services revenue collapses. This is why Tim Cook and Apple's leadership are reportedly taking the NVIDIA threat extremely seriously. According to sources quoted in the Wall Street Journal, Apple has accelerated their internal AI chip development and is considering acquiring an AI-focused semiconductor company to catch up. But acquisitions take years to integrate, and Nvidia has a 15-year head start. Apple's only real defense is brand loyalty. The iPhone has the most loyal customer base in consumer electronics. People buy iPhones because they trust Apple, because they're invested in the ecosystem, because it's a status symbol. And Apple is betting that loyalty will hold even if a superior product exists. But history says otherwise. Nokia had loyal customers. BlackBerry had loyal customers. Palm had loyal customers. And all of them lost to the iPhone because the iPhone was fundamentally better. It offered capabilities that didn't exist before. And consumers abandoned loyalty for capability. If NVIDIA's phone is as good as the leaks suggest, if it really can run autonomous AI that makes the iPhone look dumb by comparison, loyalty won't matter. Consumers will switch. Because they always do when something genuinely better comes along, and that's the nightmare scenario for Apple. Not gradual decline. Sudden irrelevance, the same irrelevance they inflicted on Nokia, BlackBerry, and Palm when they launched the iPhone in 2007. Now let's talk about Samsung, because they're in an even worse position than Apple. Samsung doesn't have the ecosystem lock-in. They don't have the brand loyalty, they compete on hardware specs and price. And Nvidia is about to make both of those advantages irrelevant. Samsung's flagship Galaxy S series is built around Qualcomm's Snapdragon chips. Powerful processors, but not designed for AI workloads. Samsung has tried to add AI features through software, Galaxy AI, their suite of on-device intelligence tools. But it's limited by the underlying hardware. Qualcomm's chips weren't built for this, and Samsung can't just switch to Nvidia chips. Nvidia doesn't sell mobile processors to other manufacturers. They've always worked through partnerships, licensing their technology or selling server-grade chips. But they don't make smartphone SoCs, until now. So Samsung has two options. Keep using Qualcomm chips and get obliterated by Nvidia's superior AI performance. Or wait for Qualcomm to catch up, which could take years. Either way, Samsung is screwed. The only real wildcard is if Samsung partners with Nvidia directly. Nvidia has hinted they might offer a partnership model where they provide the chip architecture and AI platform, while an Asian manufacturer handles production and distribution. Samsung, Xiaomi, Oppo, and Vivo have all been mentioned as potential partners. But even that doesn't solve Samsung's problem, because in a partnership, Nvidia controls the platform. Samsung becomes a hardware assembler like the PC manufacturers who build Windows computers. They make the device, but Microsoft controls the operating system and captures the value. In this model, Nvidia controls the AI platform and captures the value. Samsung is just manufacturing. And Samsung knows this, which is why, according to reports from Digitimes, Samsung is frantically trying to develop their own AI chip architecture to compete with Nvidia. But they're starting from scratch. Nvidia has 15 years of AI chip development experience. Samsung has maybe 2 years of serious effort. The gap is enormous. The smartphone market is about to enter what analysts are calling the AI processor wars. Just like the 1990s saw the PC processor wars between Intel and AMD, the late 2020s will see a battle between Nvidia, Apple, Qualcomm, and Samsung for dominance in AI-capable smartphone chips. And right now, Nvidia has an insurmountable lead. Their chips are faster, their software ecosystem is more mature, their AI models are more efficient, and they have the financial resources to undercut everyone on price while still making a profit. This is what industry insiders are calling the Huang effect, the moment when one company's technological lead becomes so large that competition becomes nearly impossible, not because of monopoly power or anti-competitive practices, just pure execution. Being so far ahead that catching up would take years, and by the time competitors catch up, you're already 3 generations ahead. Microsoft experienced this with Windows in the 1990s. Google experienced it with search in the 2000s. And now Nvidia is experiencing it with AI chips in the 2020s. The gap is widening, not closing. Let me show you what the Nvidia phone might actually look like. Because if the leaks are accurate, this isn't just a spec bump. It's a complete reimagining of what a smartphone does. First, the chip. Nvidia's next-generation mobile processor, tentatively called Blackwell M or Rubin M, will be built on a 3-nanometer process, the same cutting-edge manufacturing technology used for the most advanced server chips. This chip will have dedicated tensor cores for AI processing, ray tracing capabilities for photorealistic graphics, and enough memory bandwidth to run 70 billion parameter language models entirely on device. For context, the current iPhone runs AI models with maybe 3 billion parameters, and even those run slowly. Nvidia's chip could handle models 20 times larger and run them faster than an iPhone handles basic voice recognition. Second, the AI operating system. Instead of Android or iOS, Nvidia is reportedly building a new OS from scratch, designed for conversational AI interaction. You won't have a home screen full of app icons, you'll have a persistent AI interface that you talk to, type to, or gesture at. The AI becomes the interface. Want to send a message? Tell the AI. Want to book a flight? Tell the AI. Want to edit a video? Describe what you want, and the AI does it. The entire interaction model changes from I open apps and perform tasks to I describe what I need and the AI executes it. Third, autonomous agents. The Nvidia phone will support AI agents, small autonomous programs that run in the background and handle tasks without your input. One agent monitors your email and drafts responses. Another tracks your schedule and automatically adjusts plans when conflicts arise. Another monitors your finances and alerts you to unusual activity. These agents run continuously, powered by the on-device AI, requiring no cloud connectivity. Fourth, total privacy. Because everything runs locally, your data never leaves the device. No servers, no cloud storage, no data harvesting. Nvidia's entire pitch is that they don't need your data because they're not an advertising company. They make money on hardware, not on selling your information to advertisers. This is a direct shot at Google, whose entire business model depends on collecting user data to target ads. If Nvidia can deliver the same AI capabilities without data harvesting, Google's Android platform loses its competitive edge. Fifth, the price. Nvidia is targeting a launch price of $590 for the base model, potentially going up to $899 for a maxed-out version. That's $200 to $700 cheaper than a comparable iPhone Pro, and it's positioned as the most powerful smartphone ever made. Now, here's the question. Can Nvidia actually pull this off? Or is this just another tech giant stumbling into a market they don't understand? History is full of examples of dominant companies in one industry failing spectacularly in another. Microsoft tried to compete with the iPod and failed. Google tried to compete with Facebook and failed. Amazon tried to compete with smartphones and failed. The Fire Phone was a disaster. So why would Nvidia succeed where others failed? 3 reasons. First, timing. Nvidia isn't entering the smartphone market to compete with existing smartphones. They're entering at the exact moment when the market is shifting from app-based computing to AI-based computing. They're not trying to build a better iPhone. They're trying to build the first post-iPhone device. And timing matters. Apple succeeded with the iPhone in 2007 because they entered just as mobile internet became viable. Nvidia is entering just as on-device AI is becoming viable. Second, technology. Nvidia has the one thing no other company has, the best AI chips in the world. Apple has good chips. Qualcomm has good chips. But Nvidia has the chips that power every major AI system on the planet. They're not adapting existing technology, they're bringing data center class AI to a handheld device. That's a genuine technological leap, not an incremental improvement. Third, Jensen Huang. Nvidia's CEO is famously hands-on, obsessive about product details, and willing to make massive bets when he believes in the technology. He personally oversaw Nvidia's pivot from gaming to AI. He personally pushed the company into data centers when everyone thought it was a bad idea. And he's personally overseeing the smartphone project. When a CEO of Huang's caliber is directly involved, it signals that this isn't a side project. It's a strategic priority. And Nvidia doesn't do things halfway. If they're building a phone, they're building it to win. But there are risks, enormous risks. Building a smartphone isn't like building a GPU. It requires expertise in display technology, battery management, camera systems, antenna design, supply chain logistics, retail distribution, customer support, and software ecosystems. Nvidia has none of that experience. They're entering a market with entrenched competitors who've spent decades perfecting these systems. Apple's supply chain is legendary. Samsung manufactures their own displays and memory. Google controls Android and has deep relationships with carriers and retailers. Nvidia is starting from zero, and there's the ecosystem problem. iPhones work because of the App Store. Android works because of Google Play. If Nvidia builds their own operating system, they need developers to build apps for it. And developers won't build apps until there are users, and users won't buy the phone until there are apps. It's a chicken and egg problem that has killed countless platforms. Windows Phone failed because of this. BlackBerry 10 failed because of this. Even Amazon's Fire Phone failed because of this. Without apps, the platform dies, and convincing developers to support a new platform is nearly impossible. Nvidia's only hope is to make the AI so good that apps become irrelevant. If the AI can interface with web services directly, if it can automate tasks without needing dedicated apps, if it becomes the universal interface to the digital world, then maybe the app ecosystem doesn't matter. Maybe the AI is the ecosystem, but that's a massive gamble. And it's never been proven at scale. So what happens next? If the leaks are accurate, here's the timeline. 2025, Nvidia continues quietly building the infrastructure, hiring engineers, forming supply chain partnerships, developing the operating system. No public announcements, but the industry knows something is coming. 2026, Nvidia officially announces the smartphone project. Jensen Huang takes the stage at a press event, probably at Computex or CES, and unveils the vision. The first AI-native smartphone. The device gets a name, probably something like Nvidia Nexus or Nvidia Cortex, something that signals intelligence and power. Late 2026 or early 2027. The phone launches. Initially in limited markets, probably the US and China first, then expanding globally. Nvidia partners with carriers for distribution but also sells directly through their website. Initial production is limited, maybe a few million units, to test demand and iron out issues. 2027 to 2028. If the launch succeeds, Nvidia scales production. They release a second generation with improved specs, refined software, and broader carrier support. Developers start building for the platform. The ecosystem begins to form. By 2028, the smartphone market has split into three ecosystems: Apple with iOS, Google with Android, and Nvidia with their AI platform. The battle is on. But here's the thing. Even if Nvidia fails, even if the phone flops, even if consumers don't buy it, Apple and Samsung still lose. Because Nvidia's entry into the market forces everyone to accelerate AI development. It forces Apple to invest billions into AI chips. It forces Samsung and Google to match Nvidia's capabilities. It forces the entire industry to shift from app-based computing to AI-based computing faster than they wanted to. And that shift benefits Nvidia regardless, because even if consumers don't buy Nvidia phones, they'll buy phones powered by Nvidia technology. Apple will license Nvidia's AI cores, Samsung will partner with Nvidia for chipsets, Google will optimize Android for Nvidia hardware. Nvidia wins either by controlling the platform or by being the essential supplier to every platform. This is the genius of the move. It's not about selling phones. It's about controlling the future of computing. And the best way to control the future is to define it yourself rather than waiting for someone else to define it for you. The smartphone market has been stagnant for years. Every new iPhone is incrementally better than the last. Every new Galaxy is slightly improved. But nothing fundamentally changes. We've been stuck in a cycle of marginal improvements. Better cameras, faster processors, bigger screens. But the core experience hasn't changed since 2007. Nvidia is betting that AI changes everything. That the phone stops being a device you control and becomes an intelligence that controls itself on your behalf. That the future isn't about apps, it's about agents. That the future isn't about screens, it's about conversations. That the future isn't about hardware specs, it's about how much intelligence you can fit in your pocket. And if they're right, if consumers want that future, then Apple and Samsung are in serious trouble because they're optimized for the old world, the world of apps and ecosystems and incremental improvements. Nvidia is building for the new world, the world of autonomous intelligence and local processing and zero latency AI. This is the war for your pocket. And it's just beginning. Nvidia has the technology, Apple has the brand, Samsung has the manufacturing, Google has the software. And over the next 3 years, they're all going to fight for control of the most important device in your life. The phone you carry determines how you interact with the world. It's your window to information, your connection to people, your tool for productivity, your source of entertainment. Whoever controls that device controls your digital life. And Nvidia has decided they're tired of being invisible. They want to be in your hand. They want to be the intelligence you talk to every day. They want to be the platform that every other service has to go through. Apple did this to the music industry with the iPod. They did it to the mobile industry with the iPhone. And now Nvidia is trying to do it to Apple. Take the position of the platform owner and reduce everyone else to apps running on their system. If they succeed, the entire power structure of consumer technology shifts. If they fail, they've still forced the entire industry to evolve faster than it wanted to. Either way, the smartphone you're using right now is about to become obsolete. The question isn't if, it's when. And the answer, according to the insiders, the engineers, the leaked documents, the supply chain analysts, the answer is sooner than you think.